Hi, this is Vatsa from India.
Hi, this is Hrudai from the US.
And today I should be discussing something about bulbs and bubbles. Are we talking about light bulbs or soap
I
bubbles?
don't think so.
No,
I
you're right.
don't think so.
Yeah. So bulbs and bubbles are associated to a flower, and not any flower. It's a specific flower called tulip. Do you know tulips?
Yeah. Yeah, I know tulips. They're pretty beautiful.
Yes. And it it is beautiful, but in 1600s it was valuable. And guess what? It was so valuable that it was almost like one tulip. With one tulip, you could buy one house. Yeah. Soak it in. You have a flower, you can buy a house. And if you want to put in terms of dollars, let's say it was almost equivalent to $500,000. I repeat, it's $500,000. That's a lot. It was
That's
almost
crazy.
That's crazy. That's crazy. It was almost like, let's say, a skilled laborer like blacksmith, right? He had to work for 10 years continuously, like, and save everything. So whatever he earns, save it. Earn, save it for 10 years to buy one flower. And that's how the price for one tulip flower. Okay, how did it all started? Do you know?
No.
Okay,
No way.
let's go back to 1600s. So that's where it's called as Dutch Golden Age, right? So that's where this capitalism was started. There's like the kind of a stock exchange came into picture. So initially, these flowers from Persia were exported across um, um, to all the places in Europe. So European countries started buying these flowers, tulips. They loved it, they liked it, so the price went higher. This is basically a typical problem of demand and supply, right? You have higher demand, lesser supply, the price
Yeah.
increase. So that started happening. So people could kind of regrow it in their backyard. So they bought these flowers at a higher price, and then started few people, hobbyists, but serious hobbyists. They started farming at their backyard and started selling it locally. So that was a great business. They had a day job. They kind of understood how to grow these flowers, and it had a lot of beautiful patterns, blue color, red color, and whatnot. So it was all good. They were all making money, and the price of this tulip was going higher and higher slowly. And then there was this one single guy, I don't remember the name, but I do remember that flower name because it was called as, it has a crazy name. It's called as Semper Augustus in 1620. So this
Emperor Augustus?
Semper Augustus. So that was so beautiful. By the way, it became beautiful not because he did some genetic engineering or anything of that sort, because all those genetic engineering came into reality after like 200 years ago,
1900s.
1800s, 1900s, I guess. Yeah, you're right. So it was actually the flower was affected by a virus, and that made it so beautiful.
What?
Yeah. So you had a flower, and let's say red flower, and because of this virus, it had stripes, white patterns. So that contrasting color made it more beautiful. So this guy came up with Semper Augustus, and he knew that it was an amazing thing. It was selling really well, and he knew how the market works. Like, you sell the most beautiful flower, people will take it, they will not use it, rather they will try to cultivate from that, and they will start have the same species. So the supply will increase, so the demand will be reducing, and everybody will make money, so the value of the flower will go low. So guess what? He came up with a contract. He said, you can buy this flower, but you cannot sell it to somebody else, nor try to grow using that flower. So now he's controlling the entire market of Semper Augustus.
Tulip.
So now the value for these flowers skyrocketed. Not just Semper Augustus, even the low quality other flowers, people thought that, hey, you know what? because the value of tulip is increasing in general, so the value of other flowers, low quality flowers, are also going to increase. So this started going crazy. And like I said, the stock markets were just like the small community house in the neighborhood. People went there in the evening, ate some food, smoked some cigars, and started discussing and exchanging these things, right? So they started exchanging these bulbs. It started with the flower, and then the bulb. Bulb is basically like a seed to start. It's like a starter kit to have tulips. So instead of selling the flowers, they started selling the bulb, and it takes almost about I think couple of years to start getting tulip. So now they are investing in the future. And then guess what? They came up something like, hey, you know what? I will not even show you the flower or the bulb. I will give you a contract, a paper, where I would tell you that you will own 10 bulbs. Okay. And you will buy that. Let's say I'm just throwing a number, $10 per bulb. So $100, take this paper. It has my signature, which means you own 10 bulbs. So let's say 5 years down the line, I will grow it. Okay. And the value of each flower, let's say at that time, is $1,000. That means within 5 years, your $100 investment becomes?
$1,000.
Yeah, no, much more than that, right?
$10,000.
Yeah. So that's what, so people said, you know what? Okay, great. Let me start owning it. So it's a great investment. So now people who were not even interested in these flowers started owning these papers. Not because they loved that flower, because they loved the profit. So they said, okay, I will buy the flower. So very soon in 1620s or 30s, right? Yeah, 30s or early 30s, I guess. People were early 30s, 1630s.
1630s.
Yeah, 1630s. So people were actually exchanging piece of paper, paying exorbitant price, thinking that it has future profits, because the entire world or entire community thought that tulips is one of the greatest things in the entire world. But you and I.
So people were just walking around with a piece of paper saying, "Hey, I can. This is for $1,000. You can have it. $100. You can have it. Later, you will own $10,000. I've no idea if that will happen, but
Yeah,
it's probably gonna happen."
that's the risk that they were taking, and everybody were willing to pay that because they thought the experts. Experts were saying that tulips is good, so they thought that it has a very stable market. So they just invested. They invested and sold and invested and sold. That happened continuously. So the value, like I said, one bulb could actually buy you a house, or even if you have one tulip, you could buy a complete street with great villas. So that was the amount that was happening. But it all changed dramatically on one particular evening, February 5th, 1637. February 5th, 1637, again, people met at these stock exchanges. They were discussing, somebody tried to sell a bulb, and there were nobody who were trying to bid. You know the process of bidding, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you show an item or a good or whatever it is, right? And you quote a value, and people start bidding, thinking that the value of that thing is much higher than whatever is quoted. So they fight against each other because there's only one and there are 10 people ready to buy. Again, it's a demand versus supply problem. So the price of that commodity increases, or the item increases. But on that night, it started decreasing. It started decreasing and decreasing. And by the end of that night, the value of a bulb or a tulip, whatever it is, or even the contract, because at that point in time, they did not have flowers. They just had papers, right? Decreased by 95%. 95%. That night, the stock exchange guys came out. They were shocked. They had so much paper, which was probably worthy of millions of dollars, became just paper now. So they wanted to sell this as soon as possible. So they traveled overnight to other cities. because they thought that the other people are not aware of it. They just got rid of those papers for whatever the price is. And then, you know what, within few days, the entire community made the value of these tulip bulbs worthless. So that's the burst. That's the burst. So the bubble was busted. So what started with the bulb went it through the stock market bubble, and it busted eventually. And again, this was the first time that the human civilization saw the economic burst, but that was not the last time. We know that I think 2001 had a burst, 2008 was the housing market burst. I think we even saw a movie or probably discussed about that housing market burst. And 2017, I think the Bitcoin bubble busted. Today, again, in 2020, it is still increasing, but it is increasing linearly, not exponentially.
So does this have anything to do with recession?
Yes, perfect. Yes. Anytime if you see this burst happening, it's going to affect everybody, right? Because
so that's why there was a 2008 recession?
Yes, absolutely. You're right. So this is bound to happen.
So in 2020, there has been a mild recession. Is does this burst have anything to do with that?
Yes, actually, burst is in very good question, by the way. Burst is something like uncertainty in the market. Okay, you think something that has a value X is no more having the same value. For example, in 2020, the airlines had a value. The cruise ships, it's fun, right? People had to go to different countries or have fun on the cruise ship. So that has some value. But because of the pandemic, right, the COVID-19, and we realized that we cannot use those luxury items like flying.
So demand versus supply. So there was no demand, but there's a lot of supply. So the price went down.
But it's I mean, the value is still the same, just that people were not using it. So let's say if they come up with a vaccine, that means the assumption is people can become, get into the normal society again. That means they can start using it. So again, there should be a uptick in the market. But yes.
So if the airlines somehow made a vaccine, the airline people?
Not necessarily. Airline people need not make the vaccine, right? Somebody else.
So since these airlines are not being commonly used too much, if they make a vaccine, then maybe it can go up again.
Right, but it not necessarily, because airlines are not experts in making vaccines, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. Whoever makes the vaccine will get quite a bit of money, right? I think these days they have this company called Moderna. There are a couple of companies who are trying to make this vaccine. Their stocks are skyrocketing because assuming that they're going to solve the world's problem, right? But once they solve it, all these businesses that were affected will start getting back to its shape.
Yeah, but Moderna vaccine giving business, that will plummet because no one will need the vaccine.
Why? So once you have the vaccine, it will continue, right? It will make the profit, and then of course eventually everybody will probably learn to make how to do the vaccine, and probably again it's a demand and supply. It gets stagnated, not go down south, but it might get stagnated or slowly change the curve. But yes, more or less, again, it's all the demand versus supply problem. So the bottom line here is the value of a commodity is very important. Tulip, you cannot keep the tulip for 10 years. Whereas gold, people still, even today, say that, I mean, for thousands of years, people are investing in gold. Why? Because gold, everybody wants to wear it. It's so beautiful and it's not perishable. It's not like I wear a gold ring and 3 days later it gets rotten, right? So it's a purest form of a metal, so it doesn't get affected. If you wear a iron ring, it can get affected by the oxidation process, right?
Yeah.
Right. And also iron, the demand, I mean, the supply is more when compared to gold. So it's a demand versus supply problem, plus people like it, and plus it is not perishable, and you also use it for other things, right? Not just for ornaments or the rings.
Computer chips.
Yeah, computer chips. You're right. You have the chips, you have the pogo pins. The connections are all made of gold, right? So all this electronics, and I think gold is one of the standard where you can actually evaluate the country's currency, right? Let's say you're talking in terms of dollars and I'm talking in terms of rupees. How to equate it? You may say that, hey, you know what? I pay $100 for a pound. I'm just throwing a number. Then I would say, oh, I will pay about 2,000 rupees per pound. So then we will equate, saying that, okay, $100 equal to 2,000 rupees. So it can be used as a way to standardize the value, right? So that's how you should evaluate. So if you're trying to pay something more, then it's worth it. So then that's where you get into this bust. How was it? Did you like it?
Really good. I
Really?
loved it. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it.
Awesome. So I'm hoping that you're going to come up with a great topic. So until then, bye for now. Of course, have fun and stay safe.
Yeah, you stay safe too.
Bye.